It all started with when our design researchers came back after a 3-month-long research, global research around mobile productivity and more specifically mobile authoring. They had great insights, and as we learned in the morning, especially in India and China, the gravity towards productivity is changing to be more mobile-centric rather than laptop-centric. And still in US, it's still much towards the laptop-centric. But there were great insights from the research that they came back with. But the team, our product managers, our GPMs, they didn't know how to work on it. Like, what does that mean for the product plans? So what I did was had a workshop where we invited the research managers, researchers, design leaders, our product managers, all in the same room to talk about, okay, what does this mean? And researchers came with the research insights. They already had a 3-month-long research work to back it up. And PMs came up with the business goals. And just to give a little bit of context, this was at the point of time where Office was shipping cross-platform. So we were already on the path and towards the tail end of the shipping to on iOS, Android, phone, and tablet everywhere. So this, when we asked PMs to come up with business goals, they had to actually think a lot ahead because this was for the next release. But this kind of forced them to think about the business goals. And when we all got in the room together, we all brainstormed around the opportunity spaces of what could be the next for mobile in, that aligns to our user needs and user insights, but also to our business goals. So this exercise was really like just throwing ideas, what we can think of from our own. But then we did a prioritization where we selected 7. Why these 7? Because these were the 7 areas that were most unknown for us. We thought they would move the dial for business the most, and in some ways that would also change some of the existing user behaviors that people have of using Office today. So we identified these 7 opportunity areas or spaces, and that was the start of our journey with the 7 design jams. And folks might be thinking, what is design jam? It is very similar to design sprint. I think industry-wide it is known as design sprint from Google's, Google Venture. And it is a similar process. We added some more of our flavors. But the jam work basically came from my manager is a music diehard, and he had this as, oh, look, we all are coming together to jam and create a music in the end, so we named it as a design jam. At the start of every design jam, we broke the opportunity space into 2 things. One was the problem statement, which was really backed up by the user research. Okay, what's the user need or problem we are trying to solve for? But on the other hand, we also thought ahead as a prompt, which was more as a thought starter, a spark for people to think beyond what today Office is. So we started with these 2, got in the room for 5 days. It's a week-long process. We started with understanding the problem, and each understand day looks like something, 1-hour presentations by either researchers or PMs that would talk about either the user problem or telemetry data from our existing tools. The second day, at the end of the first day actually, we would explore the problem space a little bit more and scope what we're gonna go and handle in the next 4 days. The second day, Diverge, is basically the brainstorming day where lots and lots of ideas are created and concepts are created to solve for the problem identified. This is the design process. I'm not going to go too much detail in it. But yeah, so after diverging and creating lots of concepts, we would pick some of the good concepts or the ones that we all like to create a storyboard and then create or build a prototype. And the prototype was just a low fidelity prototype. It was like a PowerPoint slides and some visuals that we can put in front of our users and test and learn from them. So this was like a week-long process that we go through. I just wanted to show something where we did these kind of sessions. The space was really important, and I want to talk a little bit about it. we have these two glass rooms. And the one side of the glass rooms, we have these, we call buoys, the orange top ones, which are like yoga balls. So you can, when you sit, you have to move around, so you cannot sit for a long time, and that's intentional. That is meant for conversation, so that you don't just sit and chat and chat and chat. You, it stimulates you to get up and move around. The second room had a table, which is basically we use it as for brainstorming. So you need surface to sketch and diagram it out, so we use that table. And then we have these three vertical surfaces. The whiteboard was mainly for our Post-its. So when we are exploring the problem at the end of the first day, we would go into the whiteboard and move around the Post-its. In the second day, when we are diverging, we would use this glass panel to put our storyboards. And you'll see like these are three panel storyboards. So each sheet would be a concept, and the Post-it itself is the phone size. So we would say, okay, these are the phone screens. And tell your story or tell your concept in 3 screens. That's it. So the space was really important for us because it worked well, one for our process, but also it became for the whole week, it was like a spatial memory for the team. If I point out somewhere, everybody would know exactly what concept I'm talking about. So this was really important and worked really well for us. So this process really changed us, how we worked. We brought all our partners together. So it was really fun, a lot of making, a lot of laughing. So it was really fun process for us, but we also had an impact on how we communicated with our partners there. So the design jam process we went through every other week for 14 weeks. So because there were 7 design jams, we jammed 1 week. The second week, we took a break. Third week, we jammed again. The reason we did the alternate week was you need some time gap for the team to regenerate, because it's a really intense week. You go through a lot of ideas churning through, and it was really fast paced. So you need that break in the middle to be creative. And also, I would use that week to plan ahead and also wrap up the previous week to communicate to our stakeholders. So out of these 7 jams, we had almost like 200 or so concepts that came out of it. We selected 5 or 6 concepts per jam, around 40 or so, and took it in front of our users. So these 40 were actually sketched out pretty much a little bit more in detail so that we can put it in front of users, get their reaction, and they can tell us whether it's valuable or not. And we got hints of where we kind of created a heat map where some of the concepts were really not valuable. People didn't see themselves doing that on the phone at all. Or some were really like, yeah, I wish I had that. I would totally pay for this. So we got a lot of user input from that. Another trick, another spatial thing we did was we had a wall. Each sheet of paper that was concept, we posted on the walls. And that wall became a big thing in our organization. Our partners would bring their engineering partners to talk about the concepts there. Other design teams would come in to see, okay, how we are thinking about mobile. And this was like a sheet of paper was basically illustrating one sketch of what that concept is, describing in a few words. And then we had these 2 stickers that showed how valuable it was for the users and how feasible it is by talking to our engineering partners. So this red and green and gray stickers became a way for us to communicate to our stakeholders which of these concepts have really potential to take forward. Besides being this physical wall, I would also send these email summary almost at the end of every jam to communicate to our stakeholders. So we were jamming in these 2 rooms, which is like for 14 weeks is a long time, and there were discussions happening outside of these rooms. So it was really important for us to communicate to our stakeholders really frequently, and so that they know exactly what are the good concepts that are coming up.